Fallout 3. The game sold 4.7 million copies and is generally a widely enjoyed game. And Fan97203 here, and today I'm going to be talking about something that I think is a little bit interesting, and some of you guys might agree with me on that. So, in Fallout 3, the whole point of the game is you are a vault dweller of sorts, a man who came from just a little underground vault to protect you from the horrors outside, coming out into the world and seeing, oh god, this place is fucked up. As it is, a post-apocalyptic place after nukes went off. So you, of course, go through what is left of Washington, D.C., now known as the Capital Wasteland, trying to find your father, make things right, and occasionally just be a general dick to people because you feel like it. But for this to be a post-apocalyptic after-nuclear war scenario, well, then the nukes have to have landed, right? And this of course happens. Not saying, oh my god, nukes didn't come down, it was all conspiracy. Definitely happened, and many major cities were absolutely demolished by these nukes, such as Boston, or the Commonwealth as it's known. But almost none of the cities seem to have been directly impacted by the Great War as it is known from when all these nukes fell. So, we want to see, did at least one of these nukes finally hit the city and actually do what it was supposed to do, or did they all miss? Where exactly did the nuke land that was supposed to hit Washington, D.C.? So, first off, we know where the one that was supposed to hit Boston landed, the glowing sea, what you can see in front of you. Now, Boston still got damaged. I'm not saying that they wound up fine, they still got hurt pretty bad. But the glowing sea is ground zero. Glowing sea is where it happened. There is nothing left but scorched remains and death. Some cultists. That's really about it. It's not a very fun place to go. Definitely really cool to explore in-game, but if something like this were to exist, obviously it would not be a fun place. So we're going to look at a few characteristics here. As we can see in this picture, everything here is very crumbled and destroyed. There are very mutated, unfriendly things that don't mind radiation walking around and slicing things' heads off and eating them and killing people for jollies. There are people who have gone mad insane nearby and living in it, and of course, let's be honest, everything you can see in this picture is pretty much destroyed. Everything is, you can see telephone, not really a pole, whatever that thing is in the back is fallen over. Some sort of building or something maybe over there that fell over, off to the right. You can see whatever that, maybe a boat, maybe part of one of those weird shaped nuclear cars that they had, off to the very left. And up at the very bottom right is a bunch of broken pavement, just absolutely shattered. Which, if you don't know, concrete isn't easy to shatter like that. So some key characteristics. Also, radiation is another major characteristic that we're looking for. You can see absolutely destroyed freeway there to the point where it's falling over sideways. See some more of those destroyed nuclear-based cars that'll come in handy later when we're talking about that. And, of course, trees are still there. They're kind of wiped to the side. We're going to kind of ignore those for the most part, because those aren't a very good way to tell where the nuke might have dropped. So, first of all, did it hit the actual capital? Here's a map, if you're wondering. Well, there are a few different places it could have hit, a few different craters. One of the major ones that a lot of people think it could have been is what used to be the White House. Now, this is a very radioactive area. If you ever visit this via broken steel or through the manhole cover, and it's just absolutely destroyed. So radioactive and destroyed, fitting two of our categories here. Sometimes you will find enemies here, not usually, or at least I haven't usually found them here, but one major problem with this and all of the other radioactive craters throughout the city: blast radius. You see, every bomb is different. You can see here the Tsar Bomba, Soviet weapon that only one of them, as far as we know, existed, but it was 50 megatons. That thing was so overly massive. You can see Hiroshima in the enlarged picture there. It's the smaller of the two very, very tiny little letter T kind of things down in the bottom left of this graph. That's Hiroshima. That thing wasn't small. that was not... It's small compared to what we have today, but that thing still packed a punch. Enough of a punch to create a mushroom cloud, which, no, is not just a thing made by the fact that it's a nuclear bomb. Mushroom cloud is made by any bomb that is big enough. So if a bomb is big enough, it will create a mushroom cloud. If it is not, it will not. Whether it's nuclear-powered, hydrogen-powered, just plain old gunpowder, does not matter. Now, Mike and Bravo are kind of in the middle. Now, the bombs that we're looking at for the Fallout universe that were launched by both Chinese and Americans are about 750 kilotons, are one of the estimates that was given by some of the original creators of the first Fallout game. Now, the reason they didn't go all-out Tsar Bomba style is because that thing is so big that the radioactive particles stay in the atmosphere long enough that by the time they get down to the surface, they are very, very much dulled down, some of them even harmless. That's not the world they wanted to create. They wanted to create a very radioactive, deadly world full of all sorts of things that come from nightmares. So they had to go with something quite a bit smaller, actually, to be able to keep the fallout, the actual fallout particles, not the name, the fallout particles in which the series is named after, down closer to the surface. That way, everything would still be irradiated, and you could still get the absolute fun and joy that is the Fallout series. Good times. So, the bombs launched in the Fallout series were somewhere in between Mike and Trinity. Trinity is 20 kilotons, Mike is 10 megatons. If we're gonna be honest, it's a lot closer to Trinity than it is to Mike. 10 megatons is a lot more than 750 kilotons. 10 megatons is a lot closer to, if my math is correct, I could be wrong, but if I am correct, it is about 10,000 kilotons. That's a lot of freaking tons, and this is tons of TNT, so not how heavy the bomb is, obviously, but how much power it has. These things are destructive. Most of our nukes today are more in between Bravo and Tsar Bomba, so sleep well, because those things exist, and they're waiting to be used. Oh yeah, just wait. But, with that aside, so the bombs we're looking at are about 750 kilotons, some more, some less, kind of depends. I would expect that the Chinese and Americans would both have some that are a little bit more powerful and some that are a little bit weaker. Now, you could say, oh, well, maybe they used a weaker one there. But first of all, that must have been extremely weak, as what happened with Hiroshima is this. Yeah. That's not Ground Zero, friends. Ground Zero is planned to be a bridge. It was off by a little bit, but that's not Ground Zero. That's closer to the edge. As you can see, buildings are still standing here. Even just Hiroshima did a shit ton of damage. So no, even if we are saying that the one launched at DC was weaker, it would have done a hell of a lot more damage than just destroying the White House. Not to mention, this is the capital of the United States. China, obviously, in this storyline, would be very, very anti-United States. So, because of that, they're going to do everything in their power to fuck up our government. So they're going to launch the biggest shit that they have at DC. That way they can wipe out everything government-wise, and they can take out a lot of the military bases nearby. The Chinese aren't idiots, people. The Chinese are not idiots in this universe. Not in our universe. I don't know, maybe in Marvel's universe they are? I don't know. So, it's not the White House. And there's really nothing in the city. Nothing has that kind of power that's shown. So, not in the city. So it's out in the rural wasteland somewhere, right? Okay, I don't know, maybe, is it near some fuck nowhere shack? I mean, everything here looks wiped out. You got rocks thrown all over the place. And then there's a little shack that got built after the war. Let me explain to you how a nuclear bomb properly works, because we're missing one of the stages here. First stage, shockwave. Sends out a shockwave, destroys a bunch of shit. That's why Hiroshima looked like that. Okay, check. Any buildings nearby would have been destroyed. Rocks would have been thrown all over. This does look still too hilly, and technically I think this shack is close to one of the communication arrays, but we're just saying generally somewhere out in fuck nowhere rural areas. So, okay. You've got that, check. Second of all, launches, well, doesn't launch, but sends out basically a fireball of fucking death. Trees are definitely scorched. Yep. Could also be from radiation and just from dying over time, as the atmosphere is dead as fuck. But that's a little bit debatable, so possibly, shockwave pulling everything back. As the shockwave, by the way, doesn't just go out. After it's sent out so far, it does suck things back in. It's what the mushroom cloud is. Air is being risen up, and particles and dust and all sorts of gases are lifted up, and they start to spiral up at the top. The top that's spiraling, that's the mushroom part. Then you've got the stem, which is all the gases and particles being lifted up to there. And where is all that gas and particles coming from? Well, the shockwave, of course. The reason that it's always a darker color is because, well, that's all the dirt and broken shit that just got blown to fuck by that bomb. So, okay, maybe. Still a little iffy here. Finally, radiation. No. There are very, very few places out in the middle of nowhere with radiation. Those that are usually either A, just leftover dumpage of nuclear waste, or B, they are from something else that happened afterward. Very rarely see a very small pocket of radiation. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how the hell did this get blown up like that? And why are there some small pockets of radiation throughout the city and throughout rural DC? What the fuck? This has to have been some sort of nuke, right? No, not necessarily. Remember earlier I mentioned that the majority of automotive vehicles in this timeline were run on nuclear fission. I believe fission. They might use fusion. I don't know. This is Fallout. Not exactly sure how their technology worked before the Great War. But they used nuclear power nonetheless. Most appliances and vehicles did. Hell, almost every building had plenty of nuclear power in them. Hence, why things got fucked up as bad as they did. If nukes were to be dropped, about as many as were dropped in this timeline, were dropped on our world, yes, things would be very, very bad, and the environment would still be fucked. But not everything would be blown to smithereens. That is saying that we used the same size of bomb as they did. If we used our size of bomb, no shit would be gone. But if we used that size, 750 kiloton bombs, the same approximate amount as they used, in approximately the same locations, this wouldn't have happened. The White House would be structurally damaged, possibly would be falling apart, such as the building you see in the background there. But it would not be absolutely destroyed. What most likely happened here is the White House, since it's similar to a house, had plenty of appliances in it. A lot. Well, what's that mean? It means it got blown to fuck, because all of the shockwave that would have been sent out, and all of the radiation, everything that made all these buildings around it structurally not sound, that would set off stuff. That would start to cause smaller explosions, which would cause other explosions. You may notice, if you're playing Fallout, that when a car explodes, and you blow up a car, you'll see a bit of a mushroom cloud. Now, that isn't realistic at all, as there really shouldn't be a mushroom cloud. As I've already mentioned, it wouldn't happen. It would be more of a normal explosion. But it gets across the point that it's a nuclear explosion, and you can definitely tell that there's radioactive material afterward. That is usually the radioactive material that stays around for longer. So, Where did these nukes get launched to? Well, one of them was sent to where Megaton is now, obviously, as we know that, but that one didn't explode. So if it's not in anywhere rural that we know of, and it's not here, then where is it? Well, that's just where we're going. Vault 87. For anyone who hasn't played Fallout 3, spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about the main story, as Vault 87 has a lot to do with it. Also, Little Lamplight and all that. So, if you do not want any spoilers at all for Fallout 3, then your answer is to the west a bit of Vault 87 off of the map, and you're good. But I would like to go into it in detail and why it's Vault 87, so if you've already played this game or don't care about spoilers, then you're free to continue to watch it. Vault 87 in the main storyline is two things. Location of the Gek, which is a thing that you need to go and get, and it's also a vault, which every vault, if you don't know, had its own very, very, very weird experiment. This one, you gave FEV virus, which is Forced Evolutionary Virus. You were giving that to a bunch of people, all the people who went to that vault. Well, because of that, those people then began to be infected with the FEV virus, which is where the super mutants in the area came from. You know, the giant green people. Well, that's not all. If you go to Vault 87, just go up to the door, you can't get in. It's radioactive beyond belief, and I mean beyond belief. It's to the point where it might as well have been ground zero for that thing. Which, by the way, if I'm correct, that is the megaton bomb exploding, which you can set off during the main campaign. It's a thing you can do, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Although it did seem to be a very small bomb. Now, Vault 87, it's extremely, extremely radioactive all around the place. And it almost seems like it's the edge of a circle, if you will. Like, you've got your large radius of just absolute mass amounts of radiation, and Vault 87 is on the circumference of that circle. Just right there on the edge. And the circle extends outward out of the map. Now you can't get into the circle as it's too radioactive. You don't have any... Unlike Fallout 4, you don't have the materials necessary, and it is even more radioactive than the glowing sea in Fallout 4. So you're probably thinking, how in the hell is some FEV virus that probably got leaked out, and maybe some extra radiation from radioactive waste that the super mutants brought over, that radioactive? Well, it's not. The FEV virus isn't what's radioactive here. It's what's left of the nuclear bomb. So let's go through our checklist again. Radiation check. There's absolutely tons of it. Alright, shockwave, fireball, and second shockwave. Check. Yeah, no, we got those. The whole area is fucked. There's nothing left. It is an empty wasteland beyond that. Literally an empty wasteland. Alright. Check. Cool. How does it match up with the glowing sea, then? Well, pretty well, actually. The whole area is radioactive beyond belief. Check again. Makes sense with the glowing sea there. Full of angry creatures just waiting to rip off your head and eat you. There's a thing called super mutants. They don't like you very much. And they flood the place. They are immune to radiation, if you didn't know, and they love Vault 87, both because of the fact that it gives them the FEV virus, basically the ability to make more of them, as if you didn't know, they can't actually, continue on their species. Once they're dead, that's it. So they have to constantly infect more people with the FEV virus. It's kind of like zombies, really. Except these guys use guns, are kind of cruel sometimes, and extremely big and strong. Like the guy all the way on the right, they're known for using stuff like freaking lampposts to bash people's heads in. They're not kind creatures. Okay, so we've got the creatures, we've got the radiation, we've got the absolute destruction. What else do we need? Cultists? There's plenty of cultists in Megaton around that bomb because that hasn't gone off yet they're still getting radiation because it is sitting in water, probably leaking some radioactive materials. Honestly, there are probably some cultists who tried to go to what would be Ground Zero for the DC Wasteland, but couldn't. They most likely got past Vault 87 and died of radiation, or were killed off by super mutants. I guarantee it that if we were able to just cancel out all radiation, we would find plenty of skeletons of dead people in that area. I guarantee it. Okay. What about Vault 87? If that's really close to where the bomb went off, shouldn't that be just collapsed and destroyed? I mean, these were just for experiments, right? Like, Vault-Tec didn't make these for people to survive. Well, they did, though. You see, Vault-Tec made these for experiments, so they want the experiments to go as planned. If their experiment explodes in a fiery explosion of death before they can even start, shit, now they have no data, and they can't work with the FEV virus experiment that they wanted. So, they reinforce it like they said that they do on commercials, and boom, you can actually survive in there. You're probably thinking, well, wouldn't it take some damage? Yeah, it did. Radiation leaks in certain parts of the vault. There are certain parts that are flooded with it. The parts closer to the west. Closer to Ground Zero. Now, with that in mind, you're probably thinking, okay, so everything matches up, right? Except, you might have noticed one thing. Vault 87 has this type of coloration, minus the shack. Everything's kind of gray, brown, boring. You look at the glowing sea, it's very, very bright. It's almost a vomitish, yellowish, mustardish color that everything is tinged with. Everything has just a bit of a tint because of the radioactive material. And so you're probably saying, ha! Bethesda shows that they change colors for when everything is just, oh my god, so much radiation. And they didn't do that for the area around Vault 87, so that can't be Ground Zero, right? Well, not true. See, in Fallout 4, colors kind of changed. You'll see the car, of course it has that tint to make it more orangish, but normally that would be a bright red. As in bright colors. As in, not what's in Fallout 3. I mean, you can see here, this isn't very bright colored. If I'm gonna be honest, this is probably one of the more colorful images of Fallout 3. I mean, just take a look at this. It's very bland color scheme, fitting for a nuclear apocalypse, but definitely not bright enough to add a tinge that strong. Now let's take a look back at this. The land's got a bit of a tinge of brown. That kind of fits with the yellowish scheme. Now, there's one thing that makes it so I don't feel like I can confidently say that the nuke that destroyed Washington, D.C. fell and landed west of Vault 87. One thing makes it so I don't think I can say that and just mean it. Just like, here's the answer. One thing. All around the radioactive area, there are signs. Signs that are found near radioactive waste dumps, saying that this is a radioactive area and you need to stay away. These are pre-war style signs. I'm not sure why they would be there if the nuke dropped. They should have been either knocked away or, well, not even been there in the first place. And this is the only part that I'm really iffy about, is I feel like this makes it not feel quite right. It is possible, very, very possible, that those signs were removed from elsewhere and placed there by people afterward saying, stay away. This is Ground Zero. As, honestly, there are a good number of settlements nearby, including Little Lamplight, which is inhabited solely by children. So, it's possible someone set up those signs afterward to help ward off Little Lamplight and other travelers from going through there, as it's full of super mutants, and it's full of radiation. but I'm not sure about that. That part is a lot more iffy. But if someone did move those signs, then I can say that if that is the case, without a doubt, Fault 87 is just east of the location of Ground Zero, the nuclear bomb. So, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that there is any better explanation? Or do you guys think that only one bomb was dropped, and that's the one from Megaton? It's just the atmosphere and tectonic plate shifts from all these nukes that's destroying DC? Or do you guys think that maybe there's another location that you guys really think, hey, that's Ground Zero? Do you guys have any theories of your own about this? Tell me in the comments below. I am really interested to see what you guys think. I've actually put a decent amount of time and effort into this, more time and effort than I put, honestly, into most of my videos. But I thought this would be kind of fun, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. So, yeah, that's all for now. See you guys in the next video. Like and subscribe.